Welcome, Likeability family. Our guest speaker today, Martin Gillespie, discusses 5 keys to metabolic health. Martin is the founder and CEO of GEM Wellness Warriors, an international metabolic health and wellness consulting business. From an international corporate career with over 25 years of global experiences leading teams, acquisitions, strategy, sales, and marketing, the opportunity to make a real difference started in 2020 with the creation of GEM Wellness Warrior to focus on being the CEO of one's most valuable asset in life, one's health. In 2021, globally recognized as one of the top 500 leaders in mental health, this pathway has led the way to truly drive change in not only the corporate world, but in many individuals across the globe. Martin is a global leader and an international keynote speaker on various topics related to metabolic well-being, men's health, cancer survivorship, corporate stress management, gut health, and mindset. Martin is a best-selling author, a columnist, and a thriver of stage 4 cancer. I hope you enjoy this discussion as much as I did. Welcome, Martin Gillespie, to the Lifeability podcast. Thank you so much for supporting me and my mission of reaching the wider community so that they can embody various strategies to improve their quality of life. So I'd love for us to start off with you sharing a little bit about what metabolic health is and why it's important for us.
Great question, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on this podcast. So thank you for inviting me. For me, metabolic health has a combination of answers. But if I take it down into 4 key pillars and a 5th one, a bit like the palm of your hand to simplify it, you have to have good nutrition, real food for real health, good sleep, an essential pillar of being healthy, good movement, exercise, physically, mentally, emotionally. And the 4th one, you have to have a great deal of self-love. And in the thumb to hold it all together in your hand, always remember your ABC. Always be curious.
That's awesome. So basically, the 5 pillars to recollect that is nutrition, sleep, emotions. Um, what was the fourth one? I missed the fourth one.
Movement.
Movement, and curiosity. I love how you've got that 5th pillar of curiosity. Because I think that's so important. Rather than we can sometimes get stuck in doing what we know, and we can sometimes fail to see what might not be working for us anymore. So curiosity is so important to understand what might need to change, that might used to work for us but it no longer works for us. I love that. Thank you. And
You're
so
welcome.
why is that important?
So it's a variety of reasons. And I'll take you a little step back actually, and why you started this podcast off with your personal image, a personal, not image, your personal vision of trying to help people. 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 blood cancer. And I was a young age of 41, 42 at the time. I was living in Australia, in Sydney, and I had a 35% chance of survival. So if that isn't enough of a yellow card or a red card to change your whole environment, I don't really know what is. I'm going to make a statement here, and it's quite controversial. But I'm thankful of the gift of cancer in order to shape me and direct me into a more fulfilling purpose in doing what I'm doing.
And it's interesting, right? They always say our biggest challenges are where our biggest growth happens. So, you've obviously got a
And
wake up call and haven't just had 35% of a chance, and you're here now thriving. That's amazing.
it was tough, and it was, I was a young man with two daughters in Australia, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I did say a few bad words, generally beginning with the sixth letter of the alphabet and four letters long on great frequency. Um, and actually, I just want to mention one other thing in health, actually, going back to your first question you asked me. And I think that this is a really important aspect of metabolic health. Regardless of where you are in the world, have some more humor on a daily basis. Laugh more. We take our lives so seriously. We waste so much energy on worry and things that mean bugger all tomorrow.
Mm,
Start laughing and living in the moment a lot more.
I love that. Not taking ourselves seriously. I think that's what it starts with, right? Because the more we can do that, the more we can enrich the world with that. It's the same thing
I
with
couldn't agree
compassion.
more. And it's also, I think, a big tool that, my wake up call was cancer. But if you take that a little bit further, in the evolution of what we all go through, one of the growth areas is learning to let go of many things. And that also can include letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. And that's a pretty big one. And that could be relationships in work, intimacy, even family relationships that you have to let go in order to expand your brain and expand your purpose here.
And I just want to go a little step back. So, before you found out the diagnosis of blood cancer, were there certain symptoms that you were experiencing for a long time? How did you go about that journey?
Yeah, so I was working in the corporate world. I was working in the high-paced world of cybersecurity in Australia, and I would be spending 1 week in Melbourne, 1 week in New Zealand, 1 week in Perth, living in Sydney, then going to Asia, and I thought that that was the norm. And to put it into a kind of modern phrase, that almost cortisol social jet lag of sleeping in different, I don't mean it in any other way, sleeping in different beds. And I mean the fact that you're in different hotels, you're not getting regular sleep, you're almost dysfunctional, but you're thriving on things that don't really mean that much. You're drinking too much, you're socializing an awful lot, you're not getting enough sleep. But I thought that that was normal, and that was the way that you played the corporate game, if you want to call it that.
Mm,
You want to live in a big house, you've got to bring home the big salary type of thing, right? And it was a bit of a wake up call to go, what is really important? And over the years, and I'm still learning, without your health, nothing else matters. Yet we put very little focus on lifestyle prevention and, more importantly, the value of the greatest asset we have in life, and that's your health.
mm. Yep, we can have all the resources in the world, but if we don't have our health, what's the use? We can't make use of any of our resources.
It's incredible. And, there are some great resources out there. But if you're not healthy, and also if you're not thankful of the person you are, and also being prepared that every single day you're going to make mistakes, right? I was, and from a personal point of view, that typical type A personality of has to be this, has to be perfect, that big drive. And thankfully, I've now changed, but I will say a big thing here. I also broke a lot of the myths and I asked for professional help from other resources in order to help me in this healing journey.
What is the biggest myth that you broke?
Big boys don't ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm.
call out to the men who are listening here, or if you're involved with a man in any shape in a relationship, men's health is undervalued, and men carry a lot of emotion, and we don't release it well enough. There should be courage and commendation about asking for help.
And so, going back years ago now, what was your first experience of having that emotional release?
So I was, if you want to put it into a phrase that lots of people will understand, I was in a washing machine phase. So if you put your you put your clothes into the washing machine and you see them going round, and if it's a front loader washing machine, and then it stops and you think, oh, the door's open. Oh, I'll try and open the door because I think it's finished. And then it keeps going on. That's what my life felt like, that perpetual washing machine phase. But it was a psychologist I went to see in 2012 after being diagnosed with cancer. And she said to me the words, Martin, welcome to new beginnings. This is a fresh start for you to live your life.
That's awesome. That's so encouraging.
And that really stuck with me. And even in the crappy days, because we all have crappy days, but if you've got crappy days and you're getting injected with chemotherapy, that was that was a phrase that got me through a hell of a lot of the tough days.
Mhm. So, engaging with a psychologist, and do you remember whether you went through any specific modalities with the psychologist?
Yes, so that opened a pathway, and this is to seeking out psychological help, whether it be cognitive behavioral therapy. I dabbled in past lives. I dabbled in alternative therapy. Well, what one would say is alternative. Reiki. I did a lot of meditation. I'm a yogi. So I started doing a lot more yoga as well. And I see that as therapy actually in a completely different modality. And there were some that I went, no, that's not for me. I tried, so I'm a big fan of Wim Hof and breathing and in the cold weather. And as we're recording this outside where I am, it's -7 right now here in Scotland. So I've gone to my happy place of cold. Um, but I didn't know simple things like the importance of grounding and breathing. And I've just started over the last 10 years, evolved in trying to incorporate as many of these into my well-being as possible. And now that I advocate that in my work to individuals and to groups, that you don't have to have a red light therapy. You don't have to have, it's great if you could go to the sauna, but if you can stand in the grass 3 or 4 times a week, barefooted, and lower your cortisol levels and breathe, there's a really simple biohack you can do in order to regulate your emotions.
And it always starts with the nervous system, doesn't it? Because we can try and, have all these hacks with our diet, with our movement, but if our nervous system is constantly in that fight or flight mode, then we're not really getting to the root because we're just going to cause more inflammation.
I totally agree. And, there are things that work for me that might not work for you. So a lot of it also has to be what floats your boat, to borrow a phrase, right? And try things that could actually work with you. But to your point there about the central nervous system, when you realize that, for example, your feet, the area between your second toe and your middle toe, when you're grounding, represents your liver. So when you talk about controlling your body, if you look at, there's three key things that I advocate around gut health, for example. Learn to love your liver, protect your pancreas, and be kind to your kidneys.
Mm.
And you
Love
can do
your.
that through a variety of ways. Breathing, calming. The calmer you are, the happier those three organs will be.
Mhm. And so, for our listeners, why is it important? Why are those three organs so important compared to the rest of our organs in our body?
So, great question. If you take your physical body and say you're standing up physically, where is the central part of your body? Your gut. Those three organs are at the central part of your body. They regulate everything that's happening in your body. Your liver detoxifies all your physical work, but also your emotional brain.
Mm.
Your pancreas releases the cortisol and insulin in your kidneys. Well, you're kidding yourself on if you're not kind to your kidneys.
Mm. And I know there is like a lot of information around, liver detoxification, or, how to become or how to make your kidneys more healthy. I'm not too familiar with the pancreas, and I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, if you feel your left hand side of your body, and that's where your liver is, and your pancreas is just above that, 24/7, there are signals between your pancreas and your liver. Your pancreas releases insulin. And why is that important? Insulin controls your blood glucose levels in your body. If you take that sharp spike that you have when you get up in the morning, right? So your blood sugar levels are a little bit higher. But if you're maintaining equilibrium, a balance of your blood sugars during the day, you're protecting those organs incredibly. You're eliminating the risks of non-alcoholic fatty liver, of type 2 diabetes, type 3, which is Alzheimer's, and type 4, which is cancer.
Mm.
So your pancreas and your liver are working overtime. You have to really protect them extremely well. And they pick up your nervous language, they pick up your emotional language, and they also pick up what you are eating. So if you're eating crap food and a lot of junk food, what do you think your liver and pancreas are going to be doing to you on a daily basis?
Mm. Yeah, just
And if you're
overworking.
not hydrated enough, what do you think they're going to do as well?
And like you said, the insulin and cortisol go hand in hand, isn't it? So if we're not regulating one, we're releasing more stress in our body, which is going to cause more inflammation, and we just go round and round in vicious cycles.
And they send signals from that part of your gut to this part, which is up here, your brain.
Mm.
So your brain health really dictates the messaging that's happening in those three vital organs in your gut.
Mm. And so, just diving a little bit deeper into the gut health, and talking about intermittent fasting and, what is the differences or the benefits, for men compared to women.
Great question, because it's a question that is quite controversial here. So, if men are on fasting, here's a bonus about being a man. You will lose weight quicker than a woman. And if you're in a relationship with a woman, she will get really annoyed if you start doing intermittent fasting and you lose 4 or 5 kilos within the first 2 weeks. The reason for that, biologically, women and men are very, very different. Women have to be mindful about fasting depending on their ovulation cycle, because it could actually be a detrimental impact on them. If you're in the middle of your ovulation cycle, your adrenal glands, which are the ones around here, and your female hormones can be elevated. So if you're putting your body under that stress of fasting, you're putting too much cortisol through your body. So if you're a female, be really mindful about fasting at that time of the month. When it's not that time of the month, intermittent fasting is a great way of burning excess fat over your organs and putting your body into the primal state of being in ketosis, using the natural fat resources to thrive your body physically, mentally, and emotionally.
And intermittent fasting is important, but it's also important to make sure that we're eating the last foods at a certain time before our sleep.
Yes, and I recently came across a brilliant way of looking at this, and I hope this is a great one for your listeners. I'm going to try and do this right. It's a 3-2-1 rule. So eat 3 hours before going to bed, and if you can get like a 30-minute walk in, that's great. 2 hours before going to bed, no blue screens, and 1 hour before going to bed, a glass of salted water.
A glass of salty water before going to bed, that's putting electrolytes back into our body. Yeah.
So putting the salt into your water here, you asked me earlier about breaking some myths. If you've been unfortunate enough to end up in hospital and you're in there for a couple of days, say you were having an operation or whatever, let me ask you, how do they flush through the drugs that they might put into you and keep you hydrated?
Yeah, putting saline into you.
And what is saline?
Salt, electrolytes.
Salty water. We are
Mm.
as a Western society, and I say this in Australia as well, we're dehydrated of minerals. Good quality salts we need to be taking on a daily basis.
Mm. So we've touched a little bit about, gut health and um, a little bit about emotional health. If we dabble into a little bit of the other pillars and discuss movement, for example, because again, there is so much controversy about what sort of movements, the right amount of movement, and what intensity is the right amount of movement. Um, so I'd love to have you share a little bit about your perspective.
Sure. So I've been lucky since my early teens that I've been quite a keen runner. And you're based in Australia. I've ran 5 marathons in Australia. Sorry, 3 marathons in Australia and numerous ultra marathons, half marathons, and I don't know how many 10-kilometer runs. Running is my passion. What is important is to find something that you are passionate about that exercises your body physically and keeps that intensity happening within your body. I mentioned yoga. People will do yoga 5-6 days a week, and that's fantastic. You're moving 80% of your body. The beauty you have living in Australia, get into the ocean, get swimming. Believe it or not, here in Scotland, even in this cold weather, as I mentioned earlier, people are in the lochs at -5, -10 degrees on a daily basis now, moving their bodies. It's fantastic to see. Get up, get out, get moving. You're blessed by having the physicality to move. Get moving.
And I love how you're talking about all the natural environments, rather than constantly going into a gym and having, these workouts done in these confined environments, artificial lighting. It's so much more of a benefit for you to find something that you're passionate about and do it out in nature. I am also curious to know what your thoughts are, because something about my journey or my exercise journey, a lot of the times I had been advised to do a lot more weightlifting rather than cardio because by nature I'm petite and I've always found it really hard to put on weight, which is the opposite for a lot of people, and so a lot of the advice that I was given was more of building the muscles, rather than burning, which something like running would do. So I'm curious to know what you have to say on that.
So, a couple of really cool points there, actually. So, I know that there are a lot of people that swear blindly about going to the gym. And if that floats your boat, that's great. But I have a question for you. You mentioned there about the artificial lights. I'm going to go even further. If you are going to the gym, why not ask the gym management staff when was the last time they cleaned all the material in the gym? All the weights, everything thoroughly, right? Getting outside, let me ask you, how hard is it to go for a walk in the trail, in a bushland, in the countryside, and do 20 push-ups when you're out on your walk, right?
Mhm.
It's not hard. You can even do those bloody things called burpees if you really are a bit mental. You can do burpees in the trails, right? You can easily, even if you're out on the trails with some friends, etc., you can make your own resistance bands, getting someone to hold your legs while you push against them. So you're building resistance. Lift some big bricks. There's a plethora of things you can do. If you've got a big enough yard, and believe it or not, you could even take the spare wheel out of your car and learn to lift that and lift it up and down. There you go. So you don't have to be at the gym. If I had a dollar, a pound, a euro, whatever currency you want to work on, and I know we're recording this very close to the end of the year, and that New Year resolution, I'll go to the gym 4 days a week, and by the third week they've broken that New Year resolution. If you look at Australia, the UK, and the US, my question is, why are people still unhealthy when gym membership is expanding, right? You're in Australia, and the sad thing, having lived in Australia for 23 years, the sad thing in Australia is that it's got the second highest obesity rates in the world and the second highest pre-type 2 diabetes rates in the world.
Hmm.
You have to ask yourself, why? It's a beautiful, beautiful country, and I have great love. I am half Australian. I've got a great love for Australia, but it is a sick, sick country.
And it comes back to those 5 pillars that you're talking about, isn't it?
Without shadow of a doubt. My call, actually, as we're moving into the New Year resolution concept, if that's still the way that you believe, why don't you take 2025 and really value your greatest asset in life from the inside to the outside. Look after those organs that I mentioned, but start looking after your health. That is the best investment you can do.
I love it. From the inside to the outside, and that goes for everything, right? We're talking about movement here, so taking movement outside, but also as human beings, like actually engaging with our emotional world, looking at our internal world and then moving that through the outside. Um, let's talk about sleep. So I know a lot of these things that we've mentioned already have a huge impact on the quality of sleep. If we can dive just a little bit deeper into that, should we have a specific sleep routine? Is it important to be waking up and going to bed at the same time? Should we be doing certain things before we go to sleep? Does the quantity of sleep matter? Let's just get into that a little bit
Well,
more.
there's quite a few things there, and I like this. So many things you can do here. First thing I would suggest, if you're still going to bed with your phone next to your bed, you're a bloody idiot, right? If you're still putting your phone as an alarm clock to wake up, you're a bloody idiot. Reverse that thinking. Keep your phone in a separate room. But if you are still of that mindset of setting an alarm, set your alarm on what time you want to go to bed, not what time you want to wake up. As a reminder to get into whatever your personalized nighttime routine is. And I'm going to give you a little hack here. It's a part of, in order to ensure that your brain and your hands are working optimally both at nighttime and during the day. At nighttime, one of the routines the majority of people do is brush your teeth before you go to bed. Why not start brushing your teeth in the morning and at nighttime with your non-dominant hand? That
Mm.
increases the relationship. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to show my left hand here. That increases the telomeres, the blood flow of these fingers when you're holding your toothbrush. Now, the first couple of times doing it, you're going to get toothpaste up here. You're going to brush too hard. You're going to make a complete fool of yourself. Get over it. Get some laughter in your life. Sleep is something we do a third of the day that we should be alive for. It is the healing power that we need on a daily basis. I mentioned those three organs in our body. If we're not sleeping well, those three organs are going to be impaired. You mentioned the central nervous system. Those three organs onto your nervous system will cause a metabolic dysfunction happening in your body. Sleep regulates that. And good quality sleep is critical. But to set a routine is bloody hard because you and I don't know what everybody is up to, whether they've got kids, parents, you've got to personalize what is right for you and your environment. But if you're still scrolling on the phone at 10:30 at night, maybe go and speak to someone to get some help around sleep hygiene.
Or even just being curious, like you said, right? Like, why are we scrolling at 10:30 at night? What are we avoiding, or what are we wanting more of? And how can we get that in a healthier way?
I think, one of the beauties about the modern living that we have great technology and a little biohack if you want to do it. And I sometimes do this. So on my wrist here, I've got a smart device, right? And I know that I said that if you have your phone and you're next to your bed, you're a bloody idiot. For a couple of weeks, I will sleep with this, right, on my wrist. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm wanting to see what my heart rate is like when I'm in deep sleep.
Mhm.
And over the last couple of weeks, I've managed to get my heart rate down to the mid 30s when I'm sleeping, beats per minute. 35, 36 beats per minute.
Wow. Okay.
The lower your heart rate, the better your inner organs are. And to your point, the better your central nervous system. So you're controlling your cortisol, not the other way around. So it's a pretty good, you've got data points. It's a great little biohack you can do. And if you've got a device that can measure your heart rate, maybe try that for a couple of weeks. If your partner is next to you as well, let them try it, or talk to some of your mates that are doing it. And you can create this little community to bring sleep to a conversation piece that you can have over a coffee in the morning and go, how much sleep are you getting, mate? Elevate those conversations with key actions and data information.
So many good little hacks there. It's all about prioritizing.
And don't try and do them in one day, right? One of the things that I would like to put out to you and your listeners is it takes 9 months for a woman to carry a child in vitro, and then you have a baby, and then you think, God, what am I going to do? But it's a euphoric aspect. You've got this bundle that comes out and you think, oh my God, you've had 9 months to prepare for it. If you're really serious about changing your lifestyle and your health, it will take about 9 months to make really good inroads of change to new beginnings.
And I like that rather than, there is so much talk about the 21 days or the 3 month mark, for a habit to stick. But what you're saying is actually more realistic. It's not that those other things can't happen within a shorter time frame. Um, Potentially can, but for something to stick for a longer time and for us to change some of that subconscious, it does need to happen for a longer time. Repetition.
Repetition. I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but you might screw up along the way, and that's okay, right? Right. So be kind to yourself. So in that 9 month period, and I think I mentioned there about personalization. This is one of the call outs where working with health coaching or health professionals can be your accountability partner throughout this change process.
Mm. Mm.
And your goals might start off here. You may have a very, I was going to say simple goal, but a very measured goal of, I want to lose some weight. But as you're progressing through this, you might go, you know what, to your point, I want to build some muscle. You'll have these other milestones along the way, which are really fantastic. If you were on one of the greatest things I see working with so many people is when you're on a health change and a health journey, be prepared within 9 months that you need to go to a new shop to buy new clothes because your existing clothes won't fit you anymore.
Mm.
You will feel better, as I said, you will feel better from the inside too.
That's where the key lies, right? The more we can radiate from the inside, then transfers externally.
And a big point you mentioned earlier about light, making sure that you are getting enough daylight, enough light away from the toxicity of internal lights. We're not built to stay in cages, i.e. your house that you're in, or go from your house to the office, to the gym, to back home again. Well, where's your connection with nature 5 days a week if you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Just to quickly touch on the last pillar before we wrap up. So, the last pillar, which is probably my favorite, I think, curiosity. And how would you encourage someone to be curious when?
So it depends where they are emotionally because it's very subjective. So several years ago, someone did this to me and it sort of stuck with me, but I was prepared for it. I was asked by a psychologist to write my obituary. Right? Pretty strong thing to do.
Mm.
And what worked for me was I've got so much unfinished business I want to do. I want to do this. I want to do that. So for me, it was a trigger, a positive trigger to go, I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing this. The curiosity comes with the clarity of brain. Of I mentioned there about nutrition. If you're eating crap food, ultra processed food, what do you think your brain clarity is going to be like? If you're not getting enough fresh air, what do you think your brain clarity is going to be like? The curiosity comes with oh my god moments. Of these I mentioned about milestones. I'm a huge advocate of getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning, and for you, thankfully, it's very early in the morning for you when you're doing this. Getting up in the morning is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. If you can make little steps of twice a week, I'm going to get up at 5 in the morning, so I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. How well are you going to feel the rest of those days? And working out what feels good, and it also opens your avenue to going, I'm going to read this book, I'm going to go to that theatre. Again, you become a thirst for learning, and that's where the curiosity falls in.
And I like how you talk about, clarity and curiosity go hand in hand, but it's also about exploring, like being open to explore.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I just recently was on a call with an amazing guy in the US, and he was saying in Silicon Valley, for example, it's the power of the explorer that makes organized technology organizations thrive. The curiosity to push that boundary a little bit further, a little bit further, and be proud of what you're doing is a really great way of being the explorer of curiosity.
Yeah, and I just want to reinforce to our listeners, pushing that boundary, we're doing that in a gentle way. We're not, in this overachieving modern world that we live in, we're not forcing things, we're just being gently curious.
It's like giving someone a big hug, if that makes sense. You're putting your arms around it and going, yes. And I think that that's a really important phrase to look at it.
Mm. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Martin. You've shared so much wisdom here with us today. I want to finish off with three questions that I ask my guest speakers. So, first one being, how would you like the future of holistic health and well-being to be?
Great question. Look holistically at that person. Not, this is a brain, this is a heart, this is that. It's a holistic individual. Look at that person, not the segments of that person.
Hmm. And to add to that, how can we start becoming more holistic?
Start understanding, and I think this discussion has been brilliant, the relationship between your consciousness and subconsciousness. Start reading work of things like Bruce Limpton and Joe Dispenza, and just being curious about the joy of being a human being.
Mhm. Amazing. Second question being, what is your favorite occupation to engage in? An occupation here is any activity.
Oh, great question. Is talking allowed as an activity? I love being around my tribe, if that makes sense, and being lifted up around human contact that allows for vulnerability, allows for questioning, allows for discussion, and allows for growth.
Yeah, and sounds like it's part of feeling connected and belonging, right? Somewhere.
Yeah, and a simple little thing, you know, walk on footpaths that you haven't been on. Take different footpaths on a daily basis and you'll grow.
Mm. And then the last one being, I know you've shared quite a few different hacks, but if you could maybe suggest three things that people can start doing right off the bat when they're struggling to make changes, but they desperately know that they need to make changes, what are three things that you can suggest? Three resources.
So brilliant question. I love this. So again, the first thing I would do is ask people in the morning when they get up. Every human person will get up and go to the bathroom. That is a done deal. Take a moment, pardon me, take a moment and look in the mirror. Take your left hand, put it over your right shoulder, and in your best Scottish accent, because we roll the letter R, give yourself a pat in the back and say, I am brilliant.
I love that.
Right? So there's one. Secondly, make sure that you're drinking enough good quality water with salts on a daily basis. And my third one, when you're going down at night time, again, when you've drank your water before that 1 hour before going to bed and you go to the bathroom again, taking your right hand, putting it over your left shoulder, and again in your quiet Scottish accent, saying, giving yourself a pat in the back and saying, I am grateful.
I love that. We start with appreciating ourselves, go on with our day, having, our fluids in there, and finish off with gratitude to the world. Yeah.
But
Amazing.
gratitude, importantly, gratitude to yourself. I feel that you don't give yourselves enough of that pat on the back. And
Mm,
that's really important. We spoke, and you spoke beautifully around your central nervous system. That does wonders for your central nervous system.
perfect. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks, Martin. If people want to find out a little bit more about you, where is the best way to connect with you?
So a lot of my work you'll see on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm playing around a little bit with TikTok at the moment, doing some really funny videos. So you can check me out there. My contact details are there. I also, like you, I do have a podcast, and it's adaptably named Metabolic Wellbeing Without the BS, which you can work out what that means. And I can officially say on this, next year in 2025, my book will be published called Metabolic Wellbeing Without the BS. It starts with you.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. That's very
Thank you.
exciting.
I'm really excited. And here's a little piece of trivia. The publishing house that is publishing my book published the first two Dr. Seuss books in 1939.
Oh, wow.
So I'd never thought I would get Metabolic Health and Dr. Seuss in the one sentence, but I've managed. So that is a great feeling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well done, you. Go, you.
Thank you. Thank you. But I also want to thank you for taking the time to get me onto your podcast. And I really appreciate the time early in the morning it is for you.
Always a pleasure. Well, well, this is where your journey of exploration continues. Please subscribe to the Lifeability podcast so that you can stay tuned when new episodes come online. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. The mission at Lifeability is to inspire you to create a more fulfilling life for yourself and improve your quality of life So why not share this podcast with your loved ones and create a ripple effect together? Until next time, Asante Sana.